So let's keep it real. A lot of women can be difficult to deal with. I mean, that's just a reality, all right? And I said a lot, not all. And one of the reasons why they're so difficult to deal with is just hard to understand sometimes how to navigate through issues like communication, understanding their needs, so on and so forth. And this can lead to a lot of frustration, a lot of misunderstandings, and situations going left that wasn't your intent, right? So I want you to learn or to understand how to better communicate with women. That's going to be beneficial for you establishing healthier relationships and seeing the situations that you want to move in a positive direction do exactly that. Because remember, I'm all about establishing healthy, successful relationships. And now, let me be clear. I'm in no way implying that women don't play their part in creating healthy communication. I'm in no way ignoring the fact that some women just have some deeper issues that you can't do anything about. That's just on them. But as men, we have to also understand when we just have a disconnect or we're not fully grasping how to approach certain situations and communicate more effectively with a woman. And as a coach, I've sat down with many men, whether they be married, single, you name it, who have dealt with these situations, and I've had to walk them through how to improve the situation. So that's what we're going to do right now. So one of the first keys to communicating better with women is when she wants to speak, find out, does she just want to vent or does she want your help? All right. So as men, we have a natural inclination to want to fix things, to want to overcome obstacles, and especially and more specifically with a woman that we like or that we love, right? We want to show her that we can help her handle this situation. But I won't say unfortunate reality, just the reality of it is sometimes that's not what she's looking for. And so you'll have this scenario where woman is coming, she just wants to vent, she just wants to get things off her chest, and you trying to provide all these solutions, she's not really receptive to that. One, because she's not at an emotional place in that moment to really receive direction. Two, sometimes she just doesn't even want or care for that. Maybe she already has a plan that she plans on executing, but she just wants to get things off her chest. Now, for some of you that might be like, that's ridiculous. If you have a problem, why wouldn't you want a solution? You can't look at life and women like that, especially, again, when you're trying to establish healthy relationships. You have to start from the place of what does she need right now? There may be a moment later where we can implement strategies and figure out how we're going to overcome this, but it's all about what she needs right now. So a good practice to do as a man when a woman comes to talk to you is ask her, are you just looking to vent right now or do you want some solutions? Okay. If not asking directly just like that, like coming up with a system with her, it's specifically someone that you're already in a relationship with or dating, to understand what she needs in the moment. Okay. Now, if you want to play it safe, by default, you always start off with just assuming it's venting. I think finding out and just asking is the best way to go, don't get me wrong. But if for some reason that question doesn't get asked, approach it from the standpoint of, let me allow her to vent, get things off her chest, just listen, hear her out, pay attention, because you don't want her asking you what she just said and you can't repeat it, you can't explain it, but just hear her out. And then if she ends up saying, well, what do you think, or what do you think I could do better? All right, boom, that's your opportunity now to provide direction. And I think that if you take that approach, again, you're going to create more harmony in the situation and you're going to allow her to feel more heard. Because here's the other problem with jumping to trying to provide solution. In doing that, you may not be actively listening and you may not be properly letting her get everything off her chest. And that can create a lot more resentment and frustration, especially or more specifically, if the issue has anything to do with you or her relationship with you, okay? Because now she doesn't feel heard, and if she doesn't feel heard, she won't feel valued, And since she's not getting everything out, you may not gather enough information to understand the real problem, and therefore nothing's being really solved. All right? You're kind of just staying on the surface, and you got to be able to go deeper than that with a woman if you want true resolution. So find out if she just needs to vent or does she want a solution, and you'll be moving in the right direction. All right. So now another huge key to better communication with a woman is that you have to understand that sometimes her feelings, maybe not even sometimes, but her feelings are her reality. Now hear me out, because I already know there's a lot of dudes out there who just will not be feeling this and will take issue with what I'm saying, but you got to understand where I'm coming from, okay? I'll give you a scenario. I had a situation, it was a married couple, and they were having a lot of conflict and a lot of issues. And at one point, they had this big blow up, and the man. Okay, I'm part of it is I'm not remembering every last detail, and part of it is I don't want to reveal certain details. But the bottom line is, the man did something in the situation that made her feel less safe. Okay, now that was based off her perception, because to him, of course, I'm not going to hurt you. Of course, I'm not going to put my hands on you. Of course, I wouldn't do anything like that. But to her, her reality, how she felt, was that he was a threat in that moment. And that made her very nervous. Now, as they try to move forward and she's expressing these concerns about him being a threat and him maybe doing something, rather than him understanding that how she feels is how she sees it, it's her reality, he just kept dismissing. Oh no, you're crazy, boom, 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 boom. And all you're doing is creating more conflict. And in a scenario like that, where if she doesn't feel safe, well, doing that, dismissing her and acting like it's no big deal, it's not going to make her feel safer. Okay? So even though certain things may not be your intention, it may not be how you see it, and it's not to say that her feelings are accurate in the grand scheme of things, but you cannot address it from that angle, because then that leads to dismissing, devaluing, and again, us not getting to a place where she feels heard and we can truly resolve the issue. So even if you want to implement the logic that you're seeing in the situation, you have to start from where she is at how she feels, all right? And then see if you can walk her to the other path. So it's like, okay, in that example, if she felt like the man did something that made her feel unsafe, rather than saying, well, I would never do anything like that, that's crazy, you're being ridiculous. No, it's all right, let's acknowledge it. And that's a big thing. You got to learn how to acknowledge her feelings. That's important. Acknowledging doesn't mean agreeing, but just acknowledging. And we'll get more into that later. But all right, we're starting at she didn't feel safe. All right, one, we can say, I hear you. That wasn't my intent, but I want to understand why you felt that way. All right, if she says, boom, 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 because this happened, that happened, and maybe the issue really wasn't all about you in that moment, but it triggered something that she hasn't resolved in her past that your current action reinforced, okay? So by you actually engaging or entertaining the possibility or where she's at and how she feels, we might be able to discover it was something deeper from her past, or maybe we discover that, hey, you've done things many times that have led her to feel less safe. And it could be as simple as, all right, cool, that wasn't my intent. I want you to know I would never try to hurt you, but now I know actions like such and such can create a problem. So I will make sure going forward, I don't do those types of things, all right? Of course, if it's reasonable, if it's nothing that can't be adjusted and changed, then that's the approach we take. And now by acknowledging and addressing how she felt about it and where she's at, we can start walking towards where you feel like, but I want you to now consider such and such. The logic of, no, I would never hurt you. Maybe in that moment, I just didn't realize what I was doing, but that was never my intent. And it's easier for her to accept what you're saying because you did not dismiss how she was feeling, okay? So again, it's not always that it's you guys are gonna see things differently. As a man, her as a woman, and forget just man and woman, people. Sometimes people carry different perspectives. And it's not always about right or wrong. It's about understanding, all right, this person feels like this right now. Let me address that. And then we work from there. And I'm telling you, that by itself is going to make a world of a difference in your communication with women. All right, so let's keep this going. And next on this list, we already mentioned it, but I want to dig a little deeper for you. All right. So the next big key to communicating better with a woman is acknowledging and not dismissing. Okay. So, as I explained, there's going to be situations where you and that woman see things differently, okay? And how she perceived the situation may not line up with your actual intent in that moment. And one of the worst things you can do that people do, and just consider how it's been done to you, I would assume, because it's been done to a lot of men, where people, whether it be a woman, whether it be anybody, dismissed how you felt, all right? And how that made you feel worse, or how that made you feel devalued, or how that made you feel unheard, whatever it was, it did not lead to good things. And many times when we are communicating with somebody, communicating with a woman, we're so caught up in how we feel, how we see things, what we believe is accurate, that we don't realize we're being extremely dismissive of what she's saying. And that does not get you anywhere. So you've got to learn. It's all about acknowledging how she feels or acknowledging what's being said. Now, as I mentioned earlier, acknowledgement doesn't necessarily mean agreement, okay? So if she says, well, I felt like you were being mean to me when you said such and such. Well, all right, I hear you. I understand that's how it made you feel, but I was in no way intending that. That's not what I was trying to get across. So you see, I can still disagree and say, yo, my intent wasn't to be mean. I didn't think I was being mean, but I understand that's how you took it. I acknowledge that's how you felt, all right? And by simply acknowledging, you're gonna take a lot of the negativity out of the situation. But if you just dismiss and write it off as you're crazy, you're tripping, you're this, again, all you're doing is setting the stage for more conflict later, all right? You're setting the stage for her to feel like you don't really love her, you don't really care about her, you don't really respect her, because you're always just dismissing her. So I think it's very good practice, and understand, like, these things I'm telling you, though it's going to help you better communicate with the woman that you're dealing with, it's going to help you better communicate with people in general, all right? Learning how to acknowledge how people are seeing things are very, very important. Also understand this when it comes to the whole dismissing thing. At the end of the day, the last thing we want in a relationship is for someone to feel like they can't talk to us, okay? Because if they feel like that, then so many things will go unsaid that could have easily been resolved, and those unsaid issues and concerns turn into bigger issues. So for example, you could be dating a woman or in a relationship with a woman or married to a woman, and if she feels like she can never open up to you, or she can never express herself to you because you're always doing things that dismiss her, or you're dancing around the issue, whatever the case may be, she now does not feel comfortable doing it. And so by her having to suppress that, because here's the thing, though I tell people all the time, if you can't talk to each other, then why are you even together? The reality is that tons of people stay together even when they don't have good communication with each other. All right. I'm not saying that's what they should do, but that's what they do. So she may not leave you, right? But she's not happy. And her not being happy will show up in other little ways. And so what happens is, because she's suppressing, because she cannot talk to you enough, there's going to be other moments where she may give you an attitude, other moments where her energy is off, other moments where there's a lot of disconnect when it comes to intimacy, right? And you won't understand why, and it will frustrate the hell out of you, right? But it's all stemming from the fact that She has things that she has not been able to express to you, get off her chest. And that suppression of negative energy, plus the fact that that issue is not resolved, is what's causing the problem. And then when you ask her in that moment, well, what's wrong? She says nothing. Now, sometimes a woman does that for various reasons, but you don't want the reason to be because she cannot feel comfortable talking to you and opening up to you. So by learning to acknowledge and not dismiss, you allow her to feel more free to express herself, which again, as long as you have the information, you can then solve, resolve, and keep your relationship at a level of great harmony. All right, got a few more to go. So another big key to communicating better with women is learning how to remain focused, present, and poised. All right, what do I mean? Let's start with focused. When you are talking to the woman that you're dating, relationship, married, whatever the scenario is, you got to make sure that you can actually give your attention at that time. And I understand, like, sometimes you just don't feel like having to sit and listen and talk, or maybe you feel like your girl talks too much, or there could be various reasons. But to me, it's like, if it's going to be such a problem to where you cannot be focused and present, then you got to ask yourself, is this really the right relationship for you and her? Or is there a different way we can address this? Now, I think one of the ways that we can create a structure that allows her to have what she needs when it comes to communication, and for you to be able to manage in a way that you're good, is to maybe carve out, like, you know how people have date nights? Well, maybe like once a week, and this is just an example, you can do with it what you will, but like once a week, it's like, all right, we have a talk, the hour of talk. Like, this is our time where we get to sit down and she can just open up and vent and express, as well as yourself, because let's not assume you don't want to communicate. You may want to communicate. And at least if you guys have this very specific structured time, that can be very helpful, because now if you know when the time is coming, because it's planned, rather than her just hitting you at random moments that you may not really be in the mindset to have a discussion and address issues and all these things, we have structure, so now you can prepare yourself for the conversation. And when I say prepare, again, not prepare to be defensive and fight, prepare to listen and be present, okay? So picking out a day, and it doesn't have to be once a week, once a month, whatever it is, whatever works for y'all, just having that structured time that you know is coming, that you got to be ready for. And so that way, all right, boom, you're not getting distracted. You're not doing it at a time where you know you want to give your attention to other things. Like, I'm just an example for men who love sports. Sunday during the game, that ain't the time. Like, that's not going to work for you. You're not going to be able to focus on the conversation while the game is on. We don't do it on that day. And here's the beautiful thing. If we have structured time carved out, it eliminates, or at the least lessens, the chance for those surprise moments where you're just not in the mood right now. And because if you guys try to talk when you can't be present, when you can't be focused, that can frustrate her, that can piss her off, and again, that can create unnecessary issues. So structuring time will allow you to be more focused. The other thing I said was being present, right? Pretty much same thing, just eliminating distractions, making sure you're really locking into what's being said. You're listening to understand, not rebuttal. All right, that's a key for everybody. Learn how to listen to understand, not just rebuttal, or as we talked about before, not just looking to always just solve. Take in everything that needs to be said. Allow her to speak. Allow her to get everything out. The more she can get out in that sitting, right, the less there'll be this constant, we got to go back to this conversation, back to this conversation, back to this conversation. Sometimes that will still happen for other reasons and issues, but we are lessening the chance of that having to be the case. And then the other part of it I said was remain poised, okay? So basically what it is that sometimes, and we're going to get more into this in the following point, but sometimes as a man, she may say things or do things that triggers you, all right? Or that that gets under your skin. And you've got to learn how, no matter what's going on right now, let me stay focused, let me stay sharp, let me stay poised, let me not be rattled, let me not be emotionally reactive. All right? Because that will only lead to bigger problems and trouble. And if you're struggling with that, right? Maybe there's some things you got to heal from so that you won't have certain triggers anymore. So that you can sit, listen without, again, just going back and forth and turning it into a battle. All right. So learning how to sit back, hear her out, take it all in, process it, that's going to be very, very beneficial for you. All right. So to piggyback off the previous point of staying focused, present, and poised, another huge key to better communication with a woman is learn how to not add more fuel to the fire. Okay. So again, I've sat down with tons of couples, married, dating, whatever, and I've seen so many cases of both parties just going back and forth, just wanting to make their point and get their point across, right? But then let's say one person says something smart. When I say smart, they're being a smart ass, or maybe just downright rude or disrespectful, and then the other person retaliating, okay? And now the situation just going completely left and blowing up. And if I'm there, I have to bring it back, to a good place. But I'm just thinking to myself, well, if this is happening now in front of me, I can only imagine when y'all by yourselves behind closed doors. And so as a man, it's important to understand that sometimes people are having a moment, and you cannot let the moment get the best of you. Now, having a moment is not an excuse for a woman or anybody to be disrespectful to you. It is not to give them a pass on acting all unnecessarily foolish, crazy, whatever you call it. It's just to understand that you don't need to get sucked into it. It's to understand that adding fuel to the fire right now will just make a bigger fire and burn the whole house down. You don't win from that. It doesn't get you anywhere. And all you did in the process was get yourself all extra stressed, negative, throw your whole day off. Like, it is unnecessary. If you see that the woman you are communicating with is throwing shots at you, is trying to piss you off, then your best bet is to end the conversation. Is to let her know, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate this. You're being disrespectful, or you're crossing lines that I don't accept. So, and I would always say, you give them an opportunity. Either you stop that and we can talk civilized like adults, or conversation will end. She continues, end the conversation. That's it. You ain't going back and forth. And to be honest with you, that's a stronger statement than going back and forth for her, cursing her out, all these things. And don't get me wrong, nobody's perfect. All right. Sometimes you probably will say some things you ain't supposed to say sometimes. But the goal is to try to avoid that as much as possible. And I would much rather you stay at the higher place and be poised and be a man that stands strong without, again, being emotionally reactive. Because one, this moment will pass. Two, by you staying on the higher ground, if she can't meet you up there, then she's just exposing herself as a woman that you don't need to be dealing with. Either she needs to get with the program of having healthier communication, or she needs to go. But if you stoop down to that level, you are no better than her. All right? And you are only giving her ammunition to hold over you as to why you are the problem. Now, again, this does not mean there aren't things you still need to address, be mindful of, all these different things. But you've got to make sure you are setting the standard of healthy communication and how we're going to respectfully address each other. All right? And you cannot do that if you are adding more fuel to the fire. So stay in good character. And again, if you struggle with this aspect of it, then I would argue there's probably some things you need to heal from. All right. And I'll say this before I got one more point. We're going to wrap it up. A bonus point for you. When you go into any conversation with a woman or with a person, You have to always think to yourself, am I focused on pride or am I focused on progress? Pride is going to have you acting belligerent sometimes or doing and saying things that are unnecessary, right? Progress is always going to be about taking the best approach. And again, sometimes that will mean ending the conversation with this person, but it will never mean you having to engage in negativity, disrespect, or any of that in order to address the issue at hand. All right, so I got a bonus for you on how to better communicate with a woman. And this is more specifically, I mean, this can apply to any situation as well, but I do want to stress, like, if you're married or already in a relationship with a woman, this is very, very important as far as I'm concerned. And that is learn her cues or learn her nonverbal language, all right? So some people may not like this, but this is the reality. A lot of women aren't great communicators. I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of women, not all, but a lot of women are not always very clear and specific and straightforward about what they're feeling, what they're thinking, all these different things. And their mindset is they want you to be able to interpret, be able to read them. As some may say, they won't say they want you to read her mind, but that's pretty much how many will operate, right? And part of the reason why a lot of women think like that is because they're good at doing that themselves. Meaning, when a woman is speaking to you or speaking to anybody else, she's paying attention to more than just the words. She's looking at body language. She's paying attention to energy. She's looking at the small details, which will then be used to come to certain conclusions. Now, it doesn't always mean her conclusions are accurate, right? But she is taking a lot of different things into account and paying attention. So to her, why can't you do the same? Now, with that said, it's not that I think you need to learn how to, quote unquote, read her mind. But I do think, and again, it's specifically with a woman you are in a relationship with or married to, that it would be wise for you to learn as much of her nonverbal language as possible to help you in the moments that maybe she's not being as specific. Or maybe, for example, she comes home, she's in a bad mood, you ask her what's wrong, she says nothing. And you're like, all right, well, she said nothing, let me just leave it at that. But it was clear her body language was she's not happy, something's wrong. And maybe, yes, maybe the goal in that moment isn't to get her to say what's wrong, but you're noticing something's wrong. So let me just try to provide some positive, loving energy in that moment. All right? Don't always think you got to pull everything out in that moment. Remember, it's always asking yourself, what does she need from me right now? And maybe she's not ready to communicate words at the moment, but her energy is showing you something's wrong. So go hug her, go give her a kiss, go do something nice for her. Little things like that is gonna be very beneficial. But it goes further than that. In your everyday interaction, pay attention that maybe when she does certain actions, what is it communicating to you? Like, believe it or not, you have some couples where there's a sexual disconnect, right? And to the woman, she feels like she's dropping hints to tell the man, all right, make your move. I'm ready for business, open for business. And to the guy, he's not catching it. And so to her, she's like, well, I'm letting him know because she doesn't want to have to say it. And again, that's a whole different discussion as to should she not be able to say it? Why is that a problem? But the point is, she's not. But if he would learn her cues, her nonverbal language, he would be winning a lot more. And he'd be getting a lot more of what he wanted, right? So it's beneficial for everybody. So, ask questions, pay attention, don't assume without the willingness to be open to, all right, well, maybe I didn't interpret this correctly, but now I'm open to learning, and just be honest about that. So she understands why you took this action as so-and-so. Now, I will acknowledge that some women aren't always consistent with their cues. But we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for how can we improve these situations, how we can get more in tune with each other and create more alignment with each other to, again, create healthier, harmonious relationships. And real quick, before we wrap this up, I mentioned multiple times that you may have some issues within yourself as a man that need to be resolved that's getting in the way of you having healthy communication, right? And so be open. I really want you to consider therapy, coaching, or you could just get a copy of my book, Love After Heartbreak, which don't get caught up in the title. It's about healing from your past. And doing that and addressing any underlying issues can really not just make you better in communication and create a healthier relationship for yourself and with others, but just improve your overall quality of life. Because a lot of dudes don't understand how much stress they're holding on to because they suppress so much and haven't addressed it properly. And how those things in the wrong moment can really derail situations that you're hoping to have work out. All right. So I don't want that to be the case for you. So if you're interested or you're open to it, again, you can go to any coach, therapist. I just want you to go get the assistance that you need. But if you want to get the book, go to loveafterheartbreak.com or click the link in the description or the comment section. Get your copy. And I'm telling you, if you follow the steps, you're going to see things get a lot better. And again, you start experiencing a higher quality of life. Hey, thank you for watching this video. I hope and pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 7 great questions to ask a woman in the early stages of dating. Like, you don't like the gym? You're always working out. She's like, no, I'm doing this because I know this is what it takes to get a man, but